Thank you for tuning in to another episode with Mrs. Danielle DeVita. I am a relationship and femininity coach. I've been married for 13 years, and my goal is to help both men and women be in relationships that's best for them. So today we're going to talk about, should you get a divorce? As a married woman, I don't advocate for divorce. I don't think that should be your go-to just because there is a deal breaker in a relationship. I think people don't realize that marriage is a completely different thing than dating. When I often talk about when you're in a dating phase, yes, whenever there's a deal breaker, whenever there's, and again, when I talk about deal breakers, it's never there's a deal breaker and then you immediately leave. I truly believe that things should be addressed. And then if the person says, I am not going to do what I need to do to make the relationship healthier, then that's when you're at a crossroad where you need to leave. It's best to leave when you're in a dating phase because the whole point of dating, everything you do in dating should be intentional. Everything you do in life should have a goal to it. No one should just be doing things to do it. You don't just go to school to go to school. Your intention is to go to school, get the knowledge so you can go out and do what you want to do. Go to college to do a specific field so you can go do what you need to do. Your intention for a relationship should be, the goal should be to get married, to create a family, and to live out your purpose that you need to do within that family. And as you do still go out in the world because you've created a purpose there from going to school or the training that you needed. So dating is intentional. So the whole point of dating is so you can find your mate, your husband or your wife. And I don't necessarily believe in the one, like the single, there's only one person, but I believe that you can find your person that's for you. So to understand, should I get a divorce, you first need to understand, when you should be cutting things off in the dating phase. A lot of times people are marrying people where they should have cut them off in the dating phase. And now you're in this point where I'm married and now I want to leave. Well, you can't do the same thing you did in dating. You can't just leave, right? You want to work things out. You want to patch things up. So let's first take a look at getting a divorce. Now, from the people who I've coached, people I listen to, yes, it is true that women are more likely to file. But what I have also found out is in many cases, even though the woman has filed, the man has said he didn't want to be in a relationship. He has said either verbally or he has checked out mentally. Most of the time if he's mentally checked out or physically checked out, like left, he most likely have said he didn't want this anymore. And the woman has either took it upon herself to file, or in some cases she just filed on her own. But he has conveyed that he didn't want it either through cheating or just checking out. So a lot of times people are thinking, oh, well, women are just filing, but a lot of men typically don't, divorce or break up easily, as much as it seems like they do. They really don't, because men will be in toxic relationships, cheat on their wife, cheat on their woman, and still stay married, So a lot of times men like security as well. They like to stay put. Men are more apt to leaving, especially if someone says they don't want to be in a relationship with them. So understanding that, we first have to understand what I think the first question you want to ask is, why did you get married? So if you're considering divorce, the first question should be, why did I marry this person? Did I marry them out of fear or guilt? Did I want to just say that I'm married? Or did I truly love this person? If you truly love this person, then go back to what changed. Who changed? Did they change? Because a lot of times, from what I'm seeing, the person was still the same. Whether it's the man or the woman that wants to leave, the reasons of them getting a divorce, that person was the same even before they got married. But now you're leaving. Now you're tired of it. Now you're sick of it. And in my opinion, I don't think it's fair to just leave just because you're tired of it. I think it's like having children. If children were allowed to jump on the sofa every day, and then one day you said, or even if you said, don't jump on the sofa, but after you said it, you literally saw them continue to jump and you never did anything about it, it would be like, weird that all of a sudden you go ham on your child. They're like, Well, I always did this, and now, right? Why now? So I think if you first consider, did this person change or are you changing? Were they still the same? If people are still the same, I think the first thing you should consider, especially if you're saying, well, maybe I changed. I've grown up. They just didn't grow up. We got married young, or we were together for such a long time, and now my thought process is different because I'm a spouse now. I consider marriage made me grow up. Maybe I am a parent, so now I feel more grown up, and this person, they haven't evolved or had a maturity level that I feel that over time I've reached. So divorce should not be your immediate answer. Addressing situations is just like when you are in dating. You don't just get up and leave and ghost someone. You address, hey, this is a problem. I want to go counseling. I want to do what I need to do because our marriage is in trouble. So I would use those words and let someone know that you're serious about and intentional about getting something done, because people don't think that nothing's really broken, nothing's serious. They may not act on it. And when I say this is for someone who has continually allowed someone or overlooked a red flag, and now you want to address it, but you haven't before. Then you would need to say, our marriage is in trouble. We've talked about it often. I know we haven't done anything, but I am serious. This is serious. I want to get this fixed. Let's do this. Because if you've casually talked about something or never addressed something, it will make it hard for a person to truly believe how serious you are if you don't put emphasis on it. Now, if this is the first issue in your serious issue, then you may not have to use those words. You can say, hey, I want to, see if we can get counseling so we can work on some things and better our marriage. But if you, again, had these continual conversations over and over, and you feel like you talking now won't have any authority to it, then you may need to put some emphasis on it. Our marriage is in trouble, and I want to fix this. Especially if you've gone through therapy and they're still not getting it, then you would need to have emphasis on it, right? You don't use the divorce word. You don't use the D word, right? You just say, our marriage is in trouble. We need to fix it now. It's urgent that we fix it. So you want them to understand the urgency in your voice for that. I do think that so again, we talked about who changed. Did they change? Did you change? What happened? Because the best example would be a person deciding to not want to have children, not want to have a family, and then when they get married, things change. So I think people do change based on time periods going through, maybe changing about what they wanted to do as far as where to move. Now things have changed. People change their stance on a lot of things in those situations. I think it's very clear that you shouldn't, if you're not married yet and you're thinking about it, don't force someone to change, because people would typically try to change for that time period, but it's not going to stay the same. They're eventually going to want children, right? They're going to eventually want, man or woman, they're eventually going to want children, or they're eventually going to want to not move if you guys talked about moving away from family. If someone is they strongly had these feelings prior to. They did, maybe you told them they had to convert to a certain religion in order to get married. If someone was strongly against certain things before, forcing them to do it to get married may not last long, right? So I think that it's very important to understand that you can't change people. People have to be willing to do it on their own. They have to consider these factors on their own. If you force these changes on them, if you force this lifestyle on them, they may particularly revert back. And then that's where the change is going to happen. Like, what happened? What changed? If it's a maturity level, if you guys were fine before and then maybe you've become more enlightened and more mature, I think it's just room for conversation, room for therapy. Divorce is one of those things, is a last resort. That means you've exhausted all of the possible options. I think a lot of times people don't give enough grace in marriage. We want people to be perfect, and the minute they're not perfect, the minute they're not doing what we want them to do, even if it's over a period of a month or two, whenever they've gone through that depressed time and that horrible time, we easily give up on them. And if you're faith-based, God didn't give up on us. Why are we giving up so easily on someone we say we love, we want to be committed to? And I'm saying, even if they did mess up, even if they did step out of their marriage, even if they did do some harsh things or some wrong things, I truly believe that you want to first see if you can make it work. So you give them grace, because people make mistakes, people mess up. There are some things that can be that cannot be rectified, right? And then of course, depending on some people, their tolerance level is lower than others. So then that brings me to my next point. I think this generation has a low tolerance level. We say, well, we pretend we have this low tolerance level. We say we don't tolerate this and we don't tolerate that, but then we'll get with this person who was no good and we tolerated that. And then all of a sudden now we're fed up when it's time to fight, when it's time for the marriage. We went through all of this in a relationship prior to marriage, dealt with it. And now when we're married, we give no grace. We're not tolerant. We seem to have no tolerance for any level of BS. So I think that's why a lot of reasons why divorce happens. So should you get a divorce, the question should be, do you want to make it work? Do you want to put in the effort? Do you still love this person? Are you willing to fight and make it work? Because a lot of people aren't willing. They just say, no, I'm done. Like, are you willing to put in some effort? Are you willing to put in some work? And if not, it begs the question, why? Why aren't you willing to fight? Right? And if it goes back to, well, I'm tired of fighting. A lot of times people say they're tired of fighting. It's because they're tired of going over this with this person again. But remember, when you're tired of having a conversation over again, it's okay to get therapy, because therapy and counseling allows for a third party to help and intervene when you've exhausted your own communication levels. So I truly believe that if you're tired, if you're exhausted, the next step is to get a third party involved, not to give up. It's to get someone to help and intervene. And you don't get your best friend, your guys, or your friends, especially those who are not married, unless this person is going to provide you wise counsel. You can get some advice for them. I still think you should go to a counselor. This is why, if you've gone through divorce or you're considering, they usually typically put you in mediation first. They never take you straight through your first hearing in court. Even the courts want you to make it work. They put you through mediation. Even outside of that, just thinking about lawsuits, they put you through some form of mediation to see if you can make it work. And then when there's an impasse, then you can, continue on through trial or hearing, okay, depending on what type of suit this is. So I think that if we give more grace, if our tolerance level is not as low, if we first vetted the person in marriage and considered who we're going to spend the rest of our life with, because without looking at, maybe they will change. Because what we fail to realize is when you're married, all it does is magnify the relationship. People aren't going to just get better because they're parents, or better because they're married now. People, typically, it shows how well of a parent they are, depending on the character they already had, how well of a spouse they are, depending on the character and values that they've already had. So understanding, if you don't like their character now, if you don't like their values, which is why I say when you're getting with someone, you don't look at preferences, you look at standards, because this is why it matters. This is why it matters now, because now once you're married, once all the love has worn off, once how tall they are or how good they look, once all of that wears off, you're left with their character, their personality, the person you have to see every day, day in and day out. Do they have good character? Their money is going to wear off after a while. Their looks are going to wear off. You're going to see it enough. So now the question is this the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with? If this is the person that you like? Because I talked a whole bunch about love and what love does, but do you actually like being around this person? Do you like them? And if you do, then people typically do change for the better to make things work. They're willing to put in the work. You're willing to put in the work to continue and build a healthy marriage. At least when you're on the bottom, when you're on the rocks, you're like, okay, you know what? You're right. Our marriage is in trouble. So let's figure out what we need to do, because I don't want to lose you. as a person, as a friend, as a partner. So then you start to consider those things, right? Because a lot of times people never really like them. They love them, the emotion of it. They love them, but they didn't love them enough to push through and persevere. Their tolerance level is low because, again, love is going to allow you to persevere, and it's going to not have you magnify their flaws, right? Not to say you're going to overlook it altogether. You're going to address it, but you're not going to only see the negative in that person, right? You want to see the best in them, and they're going to see the best in you, but you also want them to pull out the best in them, right? Because that's how it's going to work, right? I think that when people think about divorce, they think about, well, how I'm feeling right now in the moment. But think about the future. Whenever your attitude of you're tired of them wears off, where's that going to leave you? Is it you just being selfish? Is it because you're not happy? Right? Because people can be unhappy in stages of their life. But what is going on? Is it that you're just not happy right now? Or you just never been happy, right? Is it that you're not respecting and trusting him or her now because of a situation, or you've never done that? A lot of times it's the here and now, and we don't think about the future. We don't think about, okay, so if I do leave, what happens with the children? What happens with this? Like, you want to look at the totality of the circumstances, because a lot of times people think about themselves and they don't even think about the children, if you have any. You don't think about all of the things that goes into and the turmoil that goes into a divorce. Sometimes people don't consider that. Sometimes they are selfish. They only thinking about, well, when I'm single again, I get to do X, Y, and Z. When I'm away from them, I get to do X, Y, Z. And we're not talking about those relationships where people need to leave in order for their life to be saved. We're not talking about those situations, because a lot of times those things could have been rectified very early on in the relationship, when it was just a behavior through their words, when it wasn't, action, right? When it wasn't so much venom with it, right? And those things could have been addressed early, but by this time it's too late, right? And most of the time, this person is a completely different person, to the point that you do need to pull away for safety reasons. But we're not talking about this, because most of the time divorce, it has nothing to do with it being a safety issue. A lot of times it does have to do with, I'm just tired of you. I don't want to make it work anymore because I'm tired of you, which is what you hear irreconcilable differences. Of course, you got infidelity. And when I say the whole, I'm tired of you, I'm tired of us being broke, or I'm tired of this, because money plays a factor. A lot of times people have to struggle up. Now they're tired of that. They've had, could have been the cheating. I'm tired of that. It could have been, I'm just tired of you in all of your BS and you not wanting to change and grow. So it could be a combination of these things. And I think that a lot of times people wait till it gets to the worst of the worst. Besides the selfishness, I think that sometimes people think, well, if this person can't do it, what this person won't do, another person will. We hear these phrases often, but especially when you've had a family, when you've had children, men or women, when you've had a family, a lot of times it may be hard to find better, unless this person is really not doing anything. Sometimes it is hard to find something better than what you're expecting. In your head, a lot of times people think, oh, I can go out there. But if you've been watching some of my videos, the dating pool is slim. So it's hard to go out there and find what you're looking for, given the way we are in this society now. A lot of people want this hookup culture. They're not looking for something intimate. They're not looking for a committed relationship. So what you had, you may not find that other people want that now, at least now in 2023, in this dating space. And other people are actually moving away from marriage instead of moving closer. So it may be hard to find someone else who wants that committed relationship, want marriage again, want children, at least this day and age, especially considering your age, because a lot of people who are divorcing are not still in their 20s though, right? They're going to be in their 30s, they're going to be in their 40s, and it's hard to start over. So again, if you're considering divorce, the first thing you should do is think, why did I get married? And let's try to get back to that. Talk to your partner, address it. Always address the issue. Never let it build up until you want to just blow up. Always address the issue. Then give them grace, because you're not perfect, they're not perfect, right? And this is men and women. You're not perfect. Give each other grace. We got to stop having a low tolerance level for BS. We just got to address the BS and try to find a way to get through it. And then that moves to the point of, are you willing to make it work? Okay, cool. Are they willing to make it work? Are you guys both willing to put in the work? Okay, great. And I think a lot of times, and don't just think about yourself. Think about them. Think about the children. Think about your future, not just the here and now and how you're upset right now. Get some cooling off time period. When I say cooling off, I don't necessarily mean separation, but a time to think. Maybe you do need 3 days or a week out the house to just kind of think about what just happened, what transpired. But I think a lot of times people don't think about it. They're just in the moment and they're pissed, and that's it. So again, these are things you should consider when you think about, should I get a divorce? Because I don't think that should be your number one thing to go to just because a deal breaker is broken. I do think that's something you should consider as a last resort after you put in all the effort, after you've got a third party, a counselor involved in helping you, when the communication is gone between you two. If you guys can't if you can't communicate, then you get the third party involved to help mediate and do this without having to go through mediation through the divorce process, because that does cost money and time. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in to Mrs. Danielle DeVita. My goal is to help all people to be in a happy, healthy, cohesive relationship, so children can grow up and see that and see how you can work through conflict and issues going on. Because I did another video on that's the number one piece of advice I would give, how to get through conflict. If you guys can learn to get through conflict, then a lot of things in your relationship can make it through. All right. So again, let divorce be your last resort. Go ahead and subscribe if you like this video. Subscribe to my channel and like this video. Share it. Thanks. Take care.